Video game movies. They're a genre of film adaptation that has come a long way. We endured the 1990s, which scrambled and stumbled to produce movies based on Super Mario Bros. And Street Fighter. We progressed through the 2000s when Resident Evil became a hit, slathered in slick editing and nu metal, built for the crowd who fell in love with the aesthetics of The Matrix and said, "More please," no matter how cheesy it tasted. The 2010s saw mixed results in trying to push the ever-growing video game market into the realm of blockbuster movies, with such examples as Warcraft, Rampage, and Detective Pikachu. The 2020s, however, have marked a huge shift in video game movies. Kicking off this era in early 2020 was Sonic the Hedgehog. The movie was originally supposed to come out in 2019, but was delayed so that Sonic's design could be retooled. The design was changed to a less realistic, more game-accurate version built to appease Sonic fans. It meant the movie would be delayed and forced a visual effects studio to redo the footage right before they were shut down. But it was a sacrifice that the Sonic fans were willing to make. I should be happy about this, right? I mean, I grew up with Sonic. I played Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic & Knuckles, and Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. I even played Sonic 3D Blast on the Sega Channel cable device, a rare achievement for millennials. I watched the 2 Sonic cartoons we were spoiled with on weekday afternoons and Saturday mornings. I loved all that Sonic stuff and still do. So, shouldn't I like this movie? Well, the day arrives when I see Sonic the Hedgehog in the theater and it's fine, mostly. There are some funny moments and the action scenes look good, but the characters are woefully underdeveloped and the foreground product placement for the Olive Garden was disgusting. And yes, I know that level of product placement has become all too common. The 2017 Power Rangers movie used Krispy Kreme as a key location and stops the movie almost entirely so that Rita Repulsa can eat one of their subpar donuts. So it's not too shocking that the Sonic movie would bring up the Olive Garden twice and list their menu items, but it still doesn't make it good just because another franchise movie did the same thing. Despite the dated punchlines about stuff like hipsters, the first Sonic movie has its moments of charm. There are some amusing sequences here and there, and it's decent as a mindless matinee for families. The crowd I saw it with seemed to be having a good time, laughing and cheering in a few bursts. But the biggest reaction in the movie did not arrive until after the credits. Revealed in the credits was the big screen debut of Tails, the flying fox character introduced in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. The audience went nuts. But why? I mean, I know of Tails. I played Sonic 2. I liked playing as the fox character in 2-player mode, and he was a fine sidekick for the cartoons. Maybe there was something more to him than the games I played and the cartoons I watched. Maybe there was something exciting in store for the sequel. So 2022 rolls around, and with it, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 debuts in theaters. And the film is fine again. There are a few decent gags. Idris Elba is charming when voicing the fish out of water Knuckles, and I had some fun with the action. But nothing really stuck out to me about Tails. He's present as Sonic's prodigy sidekick, but doesn't have much else to do but tag along and fanboy all over Sonic. It seemed like there would be a more compelling arc of Sonic trying to be a better influence with his actions around Tails, but this aspect isn't explored much. Now, I will admit there was one sequence in the movie that I enjoyed, and from what I've heard online, it's the part that Sonic fans really don't care for. During Sonic's globetrotting adventure, he crashes the wedding of Maddie's sister Rachel. The wedding itself turns out to be a sting operation for an organization known as Gun to capture Sonic. All of the guests are apparently undercover agents for this organization, including Rachel's fiancé of Randall. Furious at her day being ruined and her romance a lie, Rachel goes on the offensive in a manner that is hilariously eccentric and ends with Randall still being in love with Rachel. I really like this part of the movie. Maybe it's because I enjoyed Natasha Rothwell's highly expressive performance. Maybe it's because I felt more for how Rachel looked at Randall than how James Marsden stares at Sonic, unable to match his eyeline in several shots. Maybe it's because this was a refreshing break from the ho-hum MacGuffin plot of Sonic finding a Chaos Emerald in a trap-filled temple. Maybe it's all of those things. And yet Sonic fans seem to despise this wedding part because it doesn't involve Sonic or Tails that much. This inclusion apparently violated a rule for the Sonic movies, that whenever Sonic is not on screen, everybody should be asking, "Where's Sonic?" They watched the scene of Rachel confronting Randall amid explosions and wanted to press the button that skips the cutscene. But I want the cheat code that has Rachel using the Chaos Emerald in this movie. There's another battle with Robotnik, Sonic saves the day, and then, like clockwork, the post-credit scene reveals another Sonic character. This time, Shadow the Hedgehog. The audience again becomes thrilled, clapping and cheering for the next Sonic character to join the movie roster. Their reaction louder than anything else in the movie. And I was even more skeptical of this inclusion. Shadow the Hedgehog first appeared in the 2000s, and this was around the time that I dropped out of Sonic, the same way Sega dropped out of making consoles. By the time that Shadow had his own game in 2005, I was no longer interested in this franchise. This hot topic version of Sonic with a gun just wasn't my tempo. But maybe there was something more to Shadow in the games that would make him more interesting in these movies. So Sonic the Hedgehog 3 arrives in theaters in 2024, and it's fine, but also not fine. I'm sorry, I can't be this passive with these movies anymore. Shadow sounds interesting on paper, but the film doesn't spend enough time developing his pathos. His whole deal with being born in a lab and mourning the one girl who showed him kindness just never really gripped me. Shadow's darkness just feels off-putting amid the other CGI animal characters who are making jokes. He just doesn't fit and comes off like that goth kid who really didn't want to be at the dinner table, but mom said it was Thanksgiving and they had to. What button do I press to make Shadow listen to The Cure? Jim Carrey pulls double duty in this film by playing Robotnik and Robotnik's father. And he's funny, sure, but the bulk of the humor comes from Carrey interacting with himself and nobody else. So, it's just Jim Carrey in his own world. As for Sonic, the movie leans towards giving him a lesson in being mindful of others, but then kind of abandons it. Any growth Sonic could have and how it would be conveyed through his interactions with Shadow are shoved aside so that they can have a Dragon Ball Z fight. The whole plot about blowing up the Earth is just boring, even as a stage for Shadow's revenge on humanity and Robotnik's need to please his dad. Maybe all of this would mean more to me if I had played the Sonic Adventure games, but I feel that movies like this should entice me to play the games, and this film hasn't sold me. The jokes are even worse in this movie. Sonic's humor in the previous movies never garnered a laugh out of me, but I'd smile every now and then. Not this time. Sonic's punchlines all fell flat, and while I did smirk once or twice at Robotnik's antics, it was only when Carrey wasn't interacting with the story or the other characters. The movie ends with Robotnik and Shadow sacrificing themselves to save humanity, except not really, because we know they're going to be in the next movie. Also, Sonic learns a lesson, except not really, because the movie forgot about this as it snaps back to the status quo with its palindromic ending. And then, right on cue, another Sonic character is revealed amid the credits. Amy Rose bounds onto the screen and the crowd goes wild, for reasons that I still likely won't understand after Sonic the Hedgehog 4. The pattern is obvious now. Each Sonic movie introduces a new CGI character, there's some action, Sonic makes some jokes, Jim Carrey makes some better jokes, and then another Sonic character is teased. And the fans' biggest burst of excitement is for the last inclusion amid the credits. An applause for the next toy to come out of the box before they've barely had a chance to play with the last one. I don't feel like I'm watching a movie. I feel like I'm watching an unboxing video for Funko Pops. Press A to reveal Vector the Crocodile, and tap B repeatedly to cheer for his big screen debut. And the Sonic movies are not an isolated incident. This is what video game movies are now. Five Nights at Freddy's follows the same formula. I did not have the same nostalgia or affinity for this game series as the younger crowd, but I had played the first game, and it was fine. A fairly simple indie game of a security guard surviving the night and avoiding the spooky animatronic mascots of a restaurant that is definitely not Chuck E. Cheese. The concept for the game was simple enough that it could be made into a movie, as evidenced by the passable prototype of Willy's Wonderland. Unfortunately, following the the first game, Five Nights at Freddy's received multiple video game sequels. And with those sequels came not only more characters and mechanics, but an abundance of lore. So much lore. A Chicago deep dish pizza level of lore. Rather than use the franchise's first movie adaptation as a chance to make that lore tantalizing, it instead just dumps it all out on screen. The Five Nights at Freddy's movies seem to be a love letter to the fans, but as somebody who only played the first game, this film is an incomprehensible mess. The protagonist is Mike, a security guard with a lot going on. He's caring for his younger sister Abby, he's haunted by dreams of his abducted brother, and has anger issues with an inability to hold down a job. But none of that really matters in the movie. Mike is just a vessel for a bunch of stuff from the games. He's mostly there to stay out of the way of the film's real stars, that being the killer animatronics. Yes, the killer animatronics that are really not scary, considering they build a little fort in a happy montage. Imagine only playing the first game where you were meant to be terrified of these monsters in the dark, and then you're watching a movie where they're meant to be adorable, despite having previously killed people. The Five Nights at Freddy's movie and its sequel have a lot of problems, aside from just, not being scary, but maybe the one aspect I despise the most is the characters. I do not like Mike. I don't like how his behavior and personality are shelved once the animatronics show up. I don't like how he never gets to do any of the investigation and instead has to have all the information spoon-fed to him by Vanessa. I do not like that in the sequel, Mike is supposed to be in a romantic relationship with Vanessa, but they have zero romantic chemistry, and their one date has them mostly talking about the pizza place and its robotic residents. I do not like how Mike is given a chance to do his own investigation in the sequel when he finds a mysterious phone number, only for that revelation to be entirely off-screen. And I do not like how dull he is, displaying very little emotion in his role meant to reflect the players of the games. Can I select a different hero? And I don't really care for the motivations of the other characters either. Abby is just a fangirl for Five Nights at Freddy's who loves the animatronics to the point where any fright they might hold is drained. Vanessa exists as little more than a vessel to explain the Freddy lore and to be haunted by the central antagonist of William Afton. And as for William Afton, I can't tell you why his pizza place murdered children, why his catchphrase is that he always comes back, or why he needed to hire security for an establishment that seems to guard itself just fine. And I'm sure the many games, wiki pages, and YouTube theory videos have answers to these questions, but a movie should make one intrigued enough to check out a franchise rather than feel like homework just to understand the movie's story, let alone find it entertaining. Maybe the one character for whom I had some feelings was Charlotte, the murdered child of the second movie who possesses a marionette animatronic. Her backstory is clear, her look is creepy, and her motivations for wanting to murder the parents make sense. But outside of her, every character in these movies exists as either exposition vessels, fan cameo insertions, Freddy fodder, or one-note jokes. Of course, the defense of the Freddy fans will be that the characters of these movies do not matter. That's not what the fans came to see. They came to see the animatronics and the vague mysteries behind them. Considering these robots don't really have personality and their limited functions, the draw is more about their iconography. It's not about characters, it's about stuff. Stuff you recognize from the games. Stuff you recognize from YouTube. Did you catch the MatPat reference? Press A if you got the MatPat reference. I don't feel like I'm watching a movie. I feel like I'm reading a fandom wiki. But this is what gets fans excited. This is what they cheer for. This is just what video game movies are now. And then came the Super Mario Brothers movie. And I was a little more hopeful for this movie. I played some Mario. Everybody's played Mario. Even I, someone who chose Sega in the Great Console Wars, would occasionally cross the border into the Mushroom Kingdom. There is no heavy lore to Mario. You do not need to play Super Mario RPG to understand the story of Mario Party. And you shouldn't need to play either to enjoy a Mario movie. Unfortunately, this animated movie was made by Illumination, a studio that is known for colorful, profitable, and poorly written cartoons with too many petering out arcs. They were not going to change course for a proven formula, especially for the most iconic video game company in the world. Given that Nintendo had been burned the last time they allowed Americans to make a Mario movie, Nintendo would take control of this production. Mario's creator Shigeru Miyamoto would act as co-producer on the movie. There was also an entire Nintendo division listed in the credits, 3 of them listed as Nintendo creative executives, and 12 of them listed as just Nintendo team. Nintendo really wanted to make sure this movie didn't misrepresent their brand, and they got what they wanted. A safe, inoffensive animated movie that earned a Nintendo seal of approval. A surefire box office hit for Illumination's tried and true format of half-thought story ideas cobbled into slapstick silliness. The results were about what I expected, so not good. Mario has an arc about wanting to be there for his brother, and it's decent, but that's only because there's a payoff. The rest of the character arcs just sort of trail off. Donkey Kong has daddy issues, but they're not divulged much beyond one scene. Princess Peach has a backstory about not knowing her origins, which is brought up once and then shelved for the next movie. The rest of the movie is just action and chase set pieces with familiar Mario game iconography. I didn't find anything all that clever in how the movie weaved in all these references. There's a scene early in the movie where within seconds of each other there are references to the Super Mario Bros. Cartoon show, the Wrecking Crew, the GameCube, and the original Mario voice actor of Charles Martinet. I felt nothing for these reminders of Nintendo products and noises smeared so brazenly. As I wrote in my review, watching the movie call out Diddy Kong by name has all the excitement of seeing the giant Coca-Cola advertisement in Blade Runner. And you can likely guess my reaction to the film's teasing of Yoshi for the sequel. So yeah, I did not like the Mario Brothers movie, but many people did, and the movie made tons of money, thus ensuring a sequel. That sequel, 2026's The Super Mario Galaxy movie, was even worse. Mario wants to ask Peach out on a date, but this goal gets lost in the shuffle of saving the galaxy. The origins of Peach are finally divulged, but there's never a chance to develop her association with the cosmic princess Rosalina. The villainous Bowser is reunited with his son who wants to blow up the galaxy, and he completely abandons his potential redemption in the second half. This is a movie with 2 estranged families, and there's never a moment where their plotlines cross or have a compelling chemistry. Also, Yoshi and Fox McCloud were there because those are Nintendo characters. They don't add much to the movie or have any good back and forth. A chance for Mario and Fox to have a rivalry is shut down before it can start. So don't get your hopes up for a Smash Brothers movie, the same way that I didn't get my hopes up for the film's teasing of Daisy for the next movie to be an enticing lure. And despite all these problems, this downgrade of a sequel still did not deter Mario fans. The movie made another mountain of money, and furious fans would just rush to defend its low Rotten Tomatoes score. This happened with the last Mario movie as well, and the Five Nights at Freddy's movies, and the Sonic movies. This is what video game movies are now. Why am I not enjoying these movies when so many video game fans do? Am I so out of touch? I don't want to be like Principal Skinner, blaming my disapproval on an incongruous scapegoat, like the children being wrong. But with each of these movies, a common defense is that they are for children. Who are you, an adult, to criticize a movie made for that demographic? This criticism of criticism often leads down the road that my standards are too high for these movies. After all, what did you expect from the Super Mario Galaxy movie? Something akin to Francois Truffaut, or Jafar Panahi, or Yorgos Lanthimos? You do know you're talking about a video game movie for kids, right? It's not like it has to be a masterpiece. No, it doesn't have to be, but I don't think it's a big ask of a kids movie that if you set up a character arc, you pay it off. I don't think it's an unreasonable request from an older audience that characters have chemistry amid the connecting thread of estranged family. I don't think it's snooty to be critical of how a film plops in its many intellectual properties without much cleverness and with such abundance that the many cameos and Easter eggs lose their luster with every citation. Plenty of these animated kids movies over the past few years have cleared these easy hurdles. K-pop Demon Hunters set up a star-crossed romance suspense that pays off in the climax. Across the Spider-Verse had great back and forth with the characters to make the connections feel genuine rather than artificial. Zootopia 2 had a reference to The Shining that is perfectly in tune with the setting and tone. This is not hard stuff for a kid's movie to do, and acting like these video game movies are entirely excused from this level of filmmaking is really an insult to the younger audience. And don't children deserve better? Don't kids deserve a movie that feels less like a commercial and more like a movie? I'm not saying that kids won't enjoy the Mario movie, it's fine if they do, but kids also enjoy McDonald's Happy Meals. Just because kids like Happy Meals doesn't make them good, and it's not helpful to pretend that they are just because they happen to be promoting the Mario movie. There isn't just a pattern in how these video game movies are made, but in the response as well. The reaction to the Super Mario Galaxy movie was nearly identical to the Super Mario Bros. Movie. The critic score is low enough to be considered rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, fans get angry and declare that critics are wrong, and a few level-headed individuals find themselves once more explaining how criticism and subjectivity should be read in a manner that isn't childish. The same reaction will likely happen for the inevitable third Mario animated movie. Nothing will change. History will repeat. This is stagnation. This is what video game movies are now. But are they? I mean, is this it? Is this all video game movies will ever be? Well, it's not all hopeless. Markiplier's Iron Lung movie turned out to be a pretty decent film for being based on a video game. Now, I have my issues with it, sure, but compared to Sonic, Mario, and Five Nights at Freddy's, this film is a comparative masterpiece. It didn't feel empty. I felt something. There was something here. There was a consistent story and tone instead of a shameless excuse to promote a video game. Tension and stakes that haven't been watered down by product placement or preservation of intellectual property. A creepy setting that didn't require hours of gameplay and theory videos to understand. And for gamers who have lowered the bar with how well their medium is adapted into film, this might as well be their Citizen Kane. In a year with Iron Lung and the Super Mario Galaxy movie, I feel like I'm witnessing the two extremes of filmmaking in this subgenre. There was Iron Lung, a self-produced, low-budget indie film that became a surprise hit thanks to its scrappy nature and grassroots appeal. And then there was the Super Mario Galaxy movie, a safe, highly protective product projected on the big screen with no narrative risks taken and a reliance on game references. Perhaps somewhere in between we'll get dumb fun with movies like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, but the success of Markiplier's project and Illumination's product tie-in signals a clear trend with the subgenre. I hope we get more indie video game movies from filmmakers who have more of an artistic pull than properties to push. And despite my criticisms of Iron Lung, I would much rather see a movie that was a passion project for someone like Markiplier than a Mario movie that had to go through a dozen Nintendo employees before it was approved for theaters. We deserve better video game movies. Even if you enjoyed the movies of Mario, Sonic, and Freddy, you deserve better. It's not impossible. Movies like Iron Lung proved it could be done, and TV adaptations of award-winning shows like The Last of Us only further underscores the subgenre's untapped potential. You don't have to settle. We can do better than Sonic, Mario, and Freddy for video game movies. This is not how all video game movies have to be. And I hope it isn't. Anyway, I hope the new Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter movies are so dumb that I laugh my ass off because I just want to feel something with these video game movies.